Hi everyone, my name is Adi, and I will be your guide with the new Monk Customs Oracle. It is one hell of a product, and there were a lot of questions on how to build it. And I'm gonna show off as best as I can on how to actually complete this product and explain what you exactly need to complete it. So in the packaging itself, you will find the upper, the lower, the outer barrel, the handguard, the ESGR, if you so choose to get one of the packaging with the ESGR, because you don't have to. You will have also some cabling. These are actually extension cables that run from your trigger board all the way to your engine. You will get some bit screws, you will get some handy tools like this 3D printed line tool, let's call it like that. That's actually for the grip itself to guide the line to the connector, and also a wrench that is actually used for your ESGR itself. So what exactly will you need? You will need a trigger, you will of course need your engine, you will need a Hopup unit, a bucking, an inner barrel of course, and then this is actually quite optional, but this is a Gorilla FCU, very handy, very small as well. It has Bluetooth, so you don't actually have to take apart your replica to do any sort of adjusting to your settings. And that is pretty much it. In the standard engine of an F2, you also get this really long wire harness. I've actually replaced it with a shorter one. You can actually buy it separately from Polar Star themselves, or I believe even in the Real Strike shop, Airsoft Doctor, many options out there. Of course, with the build you also get some screws. These are actually screws from the grip itself. You'll get the high kappa grip screws actually that are for the upper and the lower assembly. So basically you get pretty much everything except for the Hopup installation, the trigger and the engine. And that is pretty much it. So let's go to the build itself. We'll be actually starting off with one of the key elements of what the Oracle is actually all about, and that is precision. It has perfect alignment, but you have to install it carefully and correctly to achieve that alignment and that perfect seal it praises itself to be. As you can see, I've already actually prepared a mag because there's a really cool trick to get the Hopup unit in the correct position for some good feeding and some perfect alignment. I'm going to show you that. One thing I forgot to mention, you also need a mag release for that build, because this is not included in the packaging. So let's start off, right? The first thing we're going to do is actually install our max Hopup unit with the inner barrel into the upper. Right now, as you can see, it's pretty loose. It's actually all over the place, but don't worry about that just yet. Then we're gonna install the outer barrel, top of it. Just a moment, yeah, there we are. And then this might go actually a little bit slower towards the front, and that is because despite the Oracle having a new design for the outer barrel, it still has all the features from the Helix outer barrels, namely that O-ring on the inside that stabilizes the inner barrel. So don't be afraid of that part. Once that is inside, the first thing you're gonna do is solidify the outer barrel onto the upper. And that actually happens with the bigger screws that you actually see here. So it's like 4 of them, not the small ones just yet. Wait with that. I'm gonna use actually my iFixit set because I find that more practical. Hope I got the right one. No, it's this one. Yeah, that's a great one. So hold it nice and firm. Get them on the inside. This will actually make sure everything is nice and snug, no wobble whatsoever. That's what it's meant to do. Make it tight, but not too tight. You don't want to over tighten anything. That's always a bad idea. I should actually get one of those screwdrivers that lets you sort of pick the torque, the amount of torque that you wind it up with. So the trick that I wanted to show you is actually you're gonna grab the lower right now, and you're just gonna sort of install it onto the upper. Oh, just sort of messing with it now. Yeah, there we are. Get the hop-up unit into position, and to get actually that perfect alignment and also the perfect sort of position for the hop-up unit to be for your magazines, you just already insert the mag inside. Don't force anything. The point of this exercise is sort of to align them perfectly with your mag. That is it. By the way, this design is actually been made for the PTS mags, which are sort of becoming as the sort of the sports standard, so to speak. And that's actually one of the reasons that I'm using one right now. So once that is inside, your hop-up unit is actually perfectly aligned with the magazine. And then it's time actually to tighten down the hop-up unit itself with those 4 smaller screws on the inside. So let's do that as well. That's actually done with the smallest bit of the packaging. But once again, I'm gonna use my iFixit set because I find that more practical. Once again, tighten it, don't over tighten it, because it's just not necessary. Tighten it to a level that you think you are happy with, you know what I mean? See, I'm not over tightening anything, I'm just doing it in the correct way. So now you would maybe have the tendency to put already the handguard on top, but we should actually wait for that for just a little while, because there's actually a small screw that goes right over here, which actually sort of tightens the upper with the lower, but we're gonna do that once we install the engine, which will pretty much be the next step. So there are actually multiple ways on how to continue with the next part, and part of that depends whether you'll be using the extension cables that are provided in the packaging of the Oracle. I prefer personally not to do so, but that's just me because I don't like too much cables hanging around. So I'll actually be putting this aside, which will make my process a little bit more finicky, but it's just my preference. You don't have to follow this along. It's just something that I like to do. So yeah, let's just follow my thought process, and maybe you guys could tell me whether you like what I did, or you completely disagree with me, whether it was maybe too finicky. But this is what I like to do. So the first things first, I like to install already the trigger inside the trigger unit, right? And that is actually one of the most easy parts that is there because it's very conveniently made. This is sort of the trigger housing. This entire build does not have a gearbox, which is a huge plus, which meant that they could actually simply focus on the alignment and sort of make everything to size. This is the trigger housing, and the trigger unit actually goes in there quite easily, right there. It's like already aligned. And then you have actually a small screw slot right here for the screw that holds it together. Just a moment. Here we go. And now the first time that you do this, it could be possible that this is quite a tight fit, but that is normal because they actually created this 3D print in such a way that it fits a vast array of screws. If you've built a lot of HPA builds, you know that there are a lot of different trigger units and a lot of different screws and slots and whatnot, and they made it explicitly a little bit tighter so a vast array of screws actually fits in there. So once that is in there, now we put in our trigger. I've chosen for the next speed trigger because I really like them. They also have the small aluminum block on the back, which makes the travel towards the sensor a lot shorter, and I really like that. So I'll be putting that one inside. Just a moment. Let's maybe loosen it up a little bit. No trigger tuning just yet. Oh yeah, and this small sort of white spring that you see, that's actually a spring from a ballpoint. And that's a part of the process of trigger tuning. A lot of people, you know, like a really tight trigger. Some people like a really loose trigger. There's all sorts of things that people like. I sort of tweak it with these ballpoint small springs. It's very adequate for me personally, once again. So trigger installation, very easy thanks to this. Trigger housing sort of goes in there. This is the top, and that is it. Easy, right? So there is this one screw that sort of holds this unit inside the lower, but we won't be doing that just yet. So here is actually the moment that it gets a little bit finicky, okay? But that's just because of me, because I prefer to do it this way. We'll be installing our F2 inside the upper, and then we'll be making the connection between the F2 and the trigger unit. And then we'll be sort of simultaneously putting that all together. Does that make sense? If you use the extension cables, you could actually very easily install the F2 in the upper, then use the extension cables, and then easily put in the trigger housing inside the lower, very easily. But I don't like that much cables. But that's just me. I'm really specific about that. Sue me. So right, let's do it. And this is actually one of the neat little parts of the Oracle. So you put in your engine. I'm actually best to already start folding this. Don't force anything, but you should force your line a little bit so it actually gets on the right side of this upper. Also put in the cables that they're on the right side. Be careful. Don't force anything, like I said. So it's in there. Once this is actually in there, you can already fixate your engine inside the upper, which means that everything already will be rock solid from front to back. And afterwards, when we're done with this, we'll be actually putting in that small screw that I told you about, and that will sort of pull everything together, and it will be so incredible. So right, let's first tighten down our engine. And that actually happens with this screw right here. If I got the right bit. Yeah. So and that is it. Rock solid. Easy as pie, right? Now, I could explain to you what, when you look at it this way, you have like the upper connector and the lower connector. I could explain what the nozzle and the poppet are, but it doesn't actually much matter. The easy part to remember is that it always has to be crisscrossed. So when you look at the trigger unit, you have an upper and a lower connector, and they're crossed with the upper and the lower connector here. So the upper connector from your F2, which is this one actually, that connects with the lower connector of the trigger unit. And the lower one connects with the upper one. Easy, right? So let's install that as well. This. Voila, that is pretty much finished. And now here's that infamous finicky part that I told you about. So what I like to do, once again, that's just me, you guys don't have to do that. I sort of install the upper onto the lower while I'm actually installing this part as well. And as you can see, because the cables are so short, it sort of pulls, you know what I mean? So at this point, I grab the screw that is meant for the trigger housing and I tighten that part down so it doesn't move. Oh. See, it's already messing with me. There we go. Hopefully you can see this on the camera. But I think you can. Nothing too complicated, trust me. So it's already in there. And then we put the wire harness and the line through the grip slot all the way down. Careful, but don't want to damage anything. Alright, there we go. And then actually, if you just do it correctly, watch out for the cables, cut anything. She'll all perfectly fall into place. Hold down the way it should be. There's one slot here that we're gonna use. Punch that through. Oh. Put it over here. And the second one. There we are. Beautiful, right? And now, last but not least, that small screw that I talked about before, now we place that inside to really tighten down everything. It'll be rock solid and it will be incredibly well aligned. More than you'd ever believe. The crazy part about the Oracle is it's like one of those products, like when you hold it, you understand what the fuss is about. And this is just tight as hell. And now it's part actually for the handguard to get that beautiful assembly look, which is held together by one single screw right here. Oh, that's the wrong bit. And there you have it. How wicked is this? Freaking incredible. So the last part of the installation, generally speaking, is always the part that I hated most with any sort of tank grip build out there. Is the installation of the tank grip itself. Now in the past that used to be a really finicky process because you also had to install the regulator inside this housing, but with the ESGR that's not necessary because it's already installed. So it's an all-in-one product, right? So that actually keeps you from a lot of hassle. So let's install that as well. Now, there are multiple ways and methods that you can do all of this. The first part always begins by guiding the wire harness and the line through the grip slot, and then of course installing the grip screws. There are 4 of them that you get in the packaging, and they actually go right over here. There are 4 of them, like I said. So let's do that right now. This is gonna be really tough with the camera and everything, but let's give it our best shot. That just went in there. Hey. I don't want to jinx anything, but this is going quite well actually. So remember how I said that this was like my least favorite part of any Handguard build that I made in the past? It's mainly because of the line, and I'll explain it in a second, but I sort of used to hate that a lot. Because getting the line in is quite okay, like it depends really on how far you've cut your line. If you did it a bit too much, you're gonna have a bad time. If it's too long, you're also gonna have a bad time. But generally speaking, it's always a pain in the ass. Alright, that is it. And now the last step actually is to get your line, which is this, into the connector in the back. It's actually behind this silver screw that you see over here. You can do it actually 2 ways. You can either use this really cool tool and sort of grab the line and sort of try to guide it in that way. But since I cut my lines relatively short, I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way, which is actually to grab a piece of, a pair of pliers and guide it in that way. So it really depends on how short your line is and whatnot. So I'm back, and as you can see, the line has been installed inside the grip. And then we can actually connect our FCU, the wire harness. Put that away the best way you can inside the grip itself. Install the back plate. All right. Get that in there. And just before I reveal, to sort of complete the look, I'm gonna install this red A-Stack Brighter C, so you guys sort of get the full picture. There we have it, the Monk Customs Oracle. It is absolutely gorgeous. Incredible craftsmanship and quality. And I've actually called my build the Vader. So I don't have a fantastic solution to do sort of these FPS tests. I gotta figure something out, but I do have a hat and I have a chrono, and that's pretty much it. So right now the build is around 100 psi, hopefully you can see that, something like that, just below maybe. And we have set up our chrono to 0.25s. These are the latest tests, 0.97. Just do that right now. These are sort of the results that I'm getting with just below 100 psi. I gotta tune that trigger, man. 94, 97. That's sort of 97. That's pretty much what we're getting. 96. Just below 100 psi. So that sort of means that around 100, just above maybe, There'll be that perfect one jewel. Perfect for in the zone. That is it.